All these seem to be working well. What I need to do now is I want to put shims here on the brake shoes of brass so that they're replaceable. They will wear out. They'll wear out more quickly than the tyres will wear out, and so I have replaceable brake shoes. I'll show you how I do that. I take a piece of brass strip, it's about a 16 thick, and I'm going to bend it, and then I'm going to silver solder it across the brake shoe, and that on both sides, and that will form the replaceable part of the brake shoes, the wear-outable part of the brake shoes. I've got the brass shim now cut and curved to fit into the brake blocks. All I need to do now is to clean up the surfaces, and then I'm going to silver solder them together. So let's go and clean this up and then silver solder. Place the brake beams onto the fabrics. And put the brass shims, just rest them on to the brake blocks. Ready for soldering, make sure they're straight, fairly straight anyway. Ready to silver solder. Got my flux, got my torch. First one done. Job done. These are the brass shims soldered into the brake shoes. What is nice about this is that they won't wear the tyre out as quickly as just rubbing on the, it's just the plain mild steel was rubbing onto the tyre of the wheel like this. It would score up the tyre much more quickly. The brass is a bit like a bearing surface, so that works quite well. The reason I silver soldered them on is silver solder melts at a much lower temperature than the braze does, so there's no chance of this braze coming undone by silver soldering these pads in here. The reason I didn't lead solder them in, use plumber's solder to solder these in, is because if the thing gets bent and I need to re-braze these joints here, I can easily do that if I'd lead soldered these in here, which I could have done. Lead solder would have stood up to the pressure of the brake shoes. It would have meant that I couldn't do any more brazing on it. I'd just have to throw the whole thing away. The last thing I need to do on the brake rig is drill a hole in one and drill a hole in the other one so I can put a spring across so that they release themselves. As you can see on here, I've just got a hole there and a hole there, and I put a spring across so that these automatically release once I take the pressure off. They'll pull themselves back off the wheel. Here's the brake operating mechanism starting to come together. I've riveted this first piece on here, and I'll show you how I do that on the other piece that is here. And I take... Now these pieces I bought. The other ones were too badly damaged that were on the original bogie. So I bought some new pieces which are just strips of metal and bent off like that from Scale Railroad Supplies. And so now I'm going to just assemble this. You've got to get it the right way around. The top, which is just a bar between the two pieces, is the shorter piece, and this goes underneath. And I know this is the top because of this operating arm here. I assemble the two together like that, and now take it over to the vise, and I just gently bang over this end of the rivet. Get the hammer, get the rivet, and then just hammer down the end. Being careful that I don't hammer it too tight or bend the rivet, which I can do because I'm doing it over a camera. So I bent over the end of it, mushroomed the end of it a little bit. I don't mind about flattening this end of the rivet, the domed head of the rivet, and I've made a sufficient little burr on that, so that's not going to come apart. So you can see the mechanism moving freely, and now I'll rivet up the other bits and show you.